Ambassador Han Taiyang stood at the viewing port of the diplomatic shuttle, watching as Axis Prime grew larger against the backdrop of space. The massive station orbited a white dwarf star, and its metallic surface gleamed with an almost threatening brilliance. Beside him, Dr. Kang Mirai reviewed data on her tablet, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. "The military presence has tripled since last week," Mirai said quietly. She looked up at Taiyang with concern in her eyes. "This isn't normal protocol for a diplomatic meeting." Taiyang nodded but said nothing. He had learned long ago that in galactic politics, silence often revealed more than words. The council had summoned him with unusual urgency, using language that suggested this was not a request but a command. Earth's diplomatic corps had spent the last 72 hours trying to understand what had changed. The shuttle docked with a soft thud, and the airlock cycled open. 2 guards from the station's security force waited for them. They were Morthians, tall creatures with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone. One of them gestured toward the corridor without speaking. As they walked through the station's passages, Taiyang observed everything. More guards lined the halls. The usual civilian traffic that filled Axis Prime seemed reduced. The few aliens they passed moved quickly and avoided eye contact. The atmosphere felt heavy with anticipation. "Ambassador Taiyang," Mirai whispered as they turned a corner. "I'm reading elevated stress hormones in the environmental systems. Whatever this meeting is about, it has the whole station on edge." They arrived at the council chamber's entrance. The massive doors were already open, revealing the circular arena beyond. Taiyang had been here before, but the space never failed to impress and intimidate. The chamber was designed to make visitors feel small. Seats rose in ascending tiers around a central floor where petitioners stood. The architecture itself was a statement of power. Taiyang and Mirai descended the steps to the center. Above them, the council members were already seated. Taiyang recognized most of them. Councillor Veltharis of the Arkenthi occupied the highest seat, his tall frame draped in ceremonial robes. Councillor Brentok of the Morthian Collective sat to his right, his 4 arms crossed in what Taiyang had learned was a gesture of judgment. Councillor Lysara of the Quintari Commonwealth was present too, her crystalline features catching the light. "Ambassador Taiyang of Earth," Veltharis's voice echoed through the chamber. "You have been summoned to address a matter of utmost importance to this council and to your species." Taiyang bowed slightly, maintaining the respectful protocol that Earth had adopted. "The people of Earth are honored by the council's attention. We are ready to hear your concerns." Veltharis leaned forward. "Concerns? An interesting choice of words, Ambassador. Let us speak plainly. Humanity has been part of the galactic community for 15 years. In that time, you have established colonies on 4 worlds. You have built a modest fleet. You have participated in trade and cultural exchange. We have tried to be good neighbors," Taiyang replied carefully. "Indeed," Brentok interrupted, his voice rough like grinding stones. "Good neighbors who occupy a region of space that holds significant strategic value. Good neighbors who control 3 jump points that connect major trade routes." Taiyang felt his pulse quicken, but kept his expression neutral. This was what they had feared. Earth's location in the galaxy had always been both a blessing and a curse. They sat at a crossroads of several major civilizations. Veltharis continued. "The Council has deliberated extensively on this matter. We have reviewed humanity's development, your cultural patterns, your technological progress. We have concluded that Earth and its colonies would benefit greatly from formal integration into the Council's protection framework." "Protection framework," Mirai repeated quietly beside him. Taiyang heard the tension in her voice. They both knew what that phrase meant. They had studied the histories of other species who had received such protection. "Yes," Lysara spoke for the first time, her melodic voice filling the chamber. "The Council offers humanity the status of client species. You would maintain your cultures and basic autonomy while receiving the benefits of Council protection, technology sharing, and guaranteed peace." Taiyang chose his words carefully. The Council's generosity is noted. However, Earth's government would need to understand the full terms of such an arrangement. What would this protection entail? What would be expected of humanity in return? Brentok's laugh was harsh. "Expected? You speak as if you have a choice in the matter, human. Let me be clear. Your species controls space that belongs under Council jurisdiction. You will cede sovereignty of your territorial claims. Your military forces will be disbanded and replaced by council peacekeepers. Your colonies will accept council governors. Your trade will be regulated through council channels. And if Earth declines this offer? Taeyang asked, though he already knew the answer. Veltharis's expression remained unchanged. Then the council would be forced to take corrective action. Your species is young, Ambassador. You have barely begun to understand the complexities of galactic civilization. Resistance would be foolish and ultimately futile. It would result in unnecessary suffering for your people. The chamber fell silent. Taeyang felt Mirai tense beside him. This was it. This was the moment Earth's leaders had predicted might come. For 15 years, humanity had watched and learned. They had studied the Council's history, analyzing how it had expanded its influence across hundreds of star systems. They had seen the pattern. Young civilizations that emerged in strategic locations were always given the same choice: submit or be conquered. The Council requires your answer, Veltharis stated. You have 72 standard hours to consult with your government. Return here with Earth's decision. Choose wisely, Ambassador. The consequences of refusing Council protection have historically been severe. Taeyang bowed again. I will convey the Council's position to my government. We will return with our answer within the specified time. As they turned to leave, Brentok spoke once more. One more thing, human. Do not mistake the Council's patience for weakness. Your colonies are fragile. Your ships are few. Your homeworld is precious to you. Remember this when you discuss your options. The threat was barely veiled. Taeyang kept walking, maintaining his composure until they were back in the corridor. Only when the chamber doors closed behind them did he allow himself to exhale. They're going to attack if we refuse, Mirai said. Those weren't negotiations. That was a surrender demand dressed in diplomatic language. I know, Taeyang replied. They walked quickly toward their shuttle. Contact Earth immediately. Use the encrypted channel. Tell them the scenario is confirmed. The Council believes we're weak and isolated. They think they can take what they want without serious resistance. Mirai pulled out her communicator. Are we going through with it? The plan? Taeyang paused at the airlock, looking back at the massive station. Somewhere in those halls, the Council members were probably already celebrating their victory. They had done this before to other species. They expected humanity to follow the same pattern. Yes, he said finally. We're going through with it. The Council has made their intentions clear. Now it's time to show them what happens when they threaten Earth. As their shuttle detached from Axis Prime and began the journey back toward human space, neither of them spoke. They both understood what was coming. The next 72 hours would determine humanity's future. Either Earth would bow to the Council's demands, or they would reveal the truth that humanity had been hiding for 15 years. And if they revealed that truth, nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The private suite on Axis Prime was supposed to be secure, but Taeyang trusted nothing on the Council's station. Mirai had deployed 6 different signal jammers around the room, creating layers of interference that would make surveillance difficult. Even so, they spoke in careful language when discussing sensitive matters. The holographic display flickered to life, showing 3 faces. Chairman Lee Daeho appeared first, his weathered features grave. Captain Yoon Ji-won materialized next, her military uniform crisp despite the light years of distance. Finally, Director Kwon Soo-min's image stabilized, her sharp eyes already analyzing the situation. The ultimatum has been delivered as predicted, Taeyang reported. 72 hours to accept client species status or face military action. The language was clear. This is conquest dressed as protection. Chairman Lee nodded slowly. Then we proceed to the next phase. Director Soo-min, what is the status of our intelligence networks? Soo-min's image leaned forward. All assets are in position. We have operatives embedded in the infrastructure systems of 14 Council worlds. The Morthians believe their shipyards are secure, but we've had people inside for 3 years. The Arkenthi think their communication networks are impenetrable. They're wrong, Mirai spoke up. How is this possible? We've only been in space for 15 years. How did we manage such deep penetration of their systems? Because they underestimated us from day one, Soo-min replied. When humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel, we discovered we weren't alone. That discovery changed everything. Every government on Earth, every nation, every faction, we all agreed on one thing. We needed to prepare for the worst. Taeyang remembered those early days. He had been a junior diplomat then, fresh from university and full of optimism about humanity's place among the stars. That optimism had lasted exactly 6 months, until the intelligence reports started coming in. The Council wasn't the benevolent federation it pretended to be. It was an empire that had perfected the art of making conquest look like charity. "Show them," Chairman Lee said quietly. Captain G1's image shifted, replaced by a star map. Blue markers indicated human colonies in known positions. But as Taeyang watched, red markers began appearing across the display. "Hundreds of them, thousands, what am I looking at?" Taeyang asked, though part of him already knew. "The truth," Ji-won replied. "Ambassador, the Council believes humanity has 50 warships. They've counted our visible fleet, analyzed our industrial output, and concluded we're a minor military power at best. They're correct about one thing. We do have 50 ships that they can see." More red markers appeared on the display, forming clusters in deep space, far from any inhabited system. "We've been building in secret since the beginning," Ji-won continued. "Those colony ships that left Earth? Half of them were mobile shipyards. The mining operations in asteroid belts? They were producing war materials. Every cargo vessel carried concealed fabrication equipment. For 15 years we've been preparing for this exact scenario." The final count appeared on the display. 3,214 vessels, Mirai gasped. "That's impossible. How did we hide construction on that scale?" "By learning from human history," Suman answered. "During World War II on Earth, the Allies built ships faster than the Axis powers could sink them. We applied the same principles but on a larger scale. Modular construction, distributed manufacturing. Every human colony, every station, every outpost was part of the production network." Taeyang studied the display, his mind racing through the implications. The Council's intelligence must have noticed something. "How did we fool their surveillance?" "We didn't fool all of it," Suman admitted. "We fed them accurate information about our visible fleet. We let them intercept communications about our challenges and limitations. We even allowed some of their agents to infiltrate our lower-level facilities. What they found confirmed their assumptions. Humanity was struggling with basic spaceflight, barely managing to maintain a small fleet, focused on survival rather than military power. But underneath that facade," Chairman Lee interjected, "we were building an entirely different military force, one designed not for exploration or defense but for total war." The display shifted again, showing weapon specifications. Taeyang recognized some of the designs from classified briefings: relativistic kinetic impactors, nuclear-pumped laser arrays, AI-guided missile swarms, weapons that other species had abandoned as too brutal or inefficient. "The Council's military doctrine is based on minimal casualties and technological superiority," Ji-won explained. "They fight clean wars with strict rules of engagement. They haven't faced total war in over 1,000 years. They've forgotten what species like ours remember. Sometimes winning isn't about being more advanced. It's about being willing to pay a higher price." Taeyang felt a chill run through him. "You're describing weapons designed to cause maximum destruction." "We're describing weapons designed to ensure the Council never attacks us," Chairman Lee corrected. "Deterrence only works if the threat is credible. The Council needs to understand that conquering humanity would cost them more than they're willing to pay." Mirai had been silent, reviewing data on her tablet. "I've been analyzing Council psychology and history. They've integrated 47 species over the last 500 years. Not one of them resisted effectively. The few who tried were crushed quickly and made examples of. The Council's confidence comes from an unbroken pattern of success." "Then we break the pattern," Suman said. "Our intelligence indicates the Council has moved military assets into position around human space. They're preparing for a quick strike campaign. They expect Earth to either surrender immediately or offer token resistance that they can overcome in days. What they don't expect," Ji-won added, "is that we've already positioned our hidden fleet around their core worlds. While they were moving forces toward us, we were moving forces toward them. If they attack any human target, they'll find our weapons aimed at their homes." Taeyang absorbed this information, feeling the weight of what was being proposed. "This is a dangerous game. If we miscalculate, if the Council calls our bluff, this could trigger a war that devastates both sides." "It's not a bluff," Chairman Lee said firmly. "If the Council forces conflict, we will fight. Not because we want to, but because the alternative is slavery. We've studied the client species system. Those civilizations exist as shadows of what they once were. Their cultures suppressed, their resources extracted. Their futures controlled by others. Earth will not accept that fate. The holographic display changed once more, showing projections of potential conflicts. The casualty estimates were staggering. Billions on both sides, worlds rendered uninhabitable, trade routes destroyed, the carefully maintained order of the galaxy shattered. There's still a chance for peace, Mirai said. If we reveal our capabilities without firing a shot, we might force the Council to negotiate genuinely. That's the plan, Chairman Lee confirmed. Ambassador Taeyang, you'll return to the Council in 72 hours. You'll deliver Earth's answer. When you do, you'll show them everything. The hidden fleet, the weapons, the operatives in their systems. You'll make them understand that attacking humanity would be the worst decision they've ever made. And if they attack anyway? Taeyang asked. The chairman's expression hardened. Then Captain Jiwan and her fleet will teach them why humanity survived thousands of years of warfare on Earth. We didn't become a spacefaring civilization by being weak. We did it by being the most persistent, adaptable, and dangerous species on our planet. The Council is about to learn what that means. The meeting concluded with final instructions and coordination details. When the holograms faded, Taeyang sat in silence with Mirai. Outside the viewport, Axis Prime continued its endless orbit, beautiful and oblivious to the storm that was coming. Do you think they'll back down? Mirai asked quietly. Taeyang considered the question. He thought about Veltharis's cold certainty, Brentok's casual threats, the Council's 1,000-year reign of unchallenged dominance. I don't know, he admitted. But in 72 hours, they'll have a choice to make. And whatever they choose, the galaxy will never be the same. Mirai nodded and began encrypting their records. Taeyang turned back to the viewport, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, hidden in the darkness between worlds, 3,000 human warships waited for the signal. Weapons that had never been fired in anger stood ready. Crews who had trained in secret prepared for the possibility of battle. Earth had gambled everything on this moment. Now they would discover if their 15 years of preparation had been enough. The 72 hours passed like a slow countdown to Judgment Day. Taeyang spent the time reviewing every detail of what he would say, every possible response the Council might have, every contingency that could arise. He slept little and ate less. Mirai worked alongside him, preparing data packages and ensuring their communication systems would function when needed. Now they stood once again in the Council chamber, but something had changed. The seats were fuller this time. More Council members had arrived to witness humanity's answer. Taeyang recognized some faces from intelligence briefings. Councillor Tereth of the Silkarian hegemony was present, a species known for their historical records. Ambassador Park Hyagin appeared via hologram from Mars Colony, her image flickering slightly as it traveled across light years. Veltharis called the session to order. Ambassador Taeyang, your time has expired. The Council awaits Earth's decision. Will humanity accept our protection? Or will you choose the difficult path? Taeyang stepped forward. His heart pounded, but his voice remained steady. Before I deliver Earth's answer, I have questions for the Council. Questions about your history and your intentions. Brentok's forearms gestured dismissively. This is not a negotiation. You were given clear terms. Nevertheless, Taeyang continued, I request the privilege of understanding the precedent. The Council has offered protection to other species before. What became of those who refused? Silence filled the chamber. The Council members exchanged glances. Finally, Tereth spoke, his ancient voice carrying weight. In the past 200 years, 7 civilizations have declined Council protection. 5 were forcibly integrated after brief military actions. 2 were blockaded and eventually accepted terms when their economies collapsed. So none successfully maintained their independence, Taeyang stated. None had sufficient reason to, Lisara replied. The benefits of Council membership far outweigh any perceived loss of autonomy. The client species system ensures stability and prosperity. For whom? Mirai asked from beside Taeyang. We've studied your client species. The Vornum people once had a thriving artistic culture. Now their art requires Council approval. The Hellcast were explorers who mapped unknown regions. Now they're restricted to their home system. You call it protection. Others might call it control. Brentok leaned forward aggressively. You dare lecture the Council on governance? Your species has barely left your homeworld. You know nothing of the complexities of maintaining galactic order. We know something about freedom, Taeyang replied calmly, and we know something about the cost of losing it. Which brings me to my next question. If Earth refuses your protection, you've implied you would use military force. Can you confirm this? Veltharis studied Taeyang for a long moment. The Council does not make idle threats, Ambassador. If humanity chooses to remain outside our structure while occupying strategic space, we will take corrective action. This is not aggression. It is necessity. The stability of the entire region depends on these jump points being under proper authority. Proper authority, Taeyang repeated, meaning your authority. Who else? Brentok challenged. Your 50 warships? Your 4 colony worlds? You are children playing with technology you barely understand. The Council has maintained peace for over 1,000 years. We know how to manage power. You do not, Taeyang felt the moment approaching. Everything hinged on the next few minutes. He looked at Mireille, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Their encrypted communication devices were active. The signal would reach every human vessel simultaneously. The Council has been monitoring our communications, Taeyang said. You've assessed our military capability. You've counted our ships and calculated our industrial output. You've concluded that humanity poses no significant military threat. This is correct, Veltharis confirmed. We have been thorough in our analysis. Then you've made a critical error, Taeyang stated. One that could cost you dearly. The chamber erupted with agitated sounds. Council members turned to each other, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony. Veltharis raised a hand for silence. Explain yourself, human. What error? Taeyang activated his data tablet, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. The error of assuming that what you can see is all that exists. The error of believing that a young species must be weak. The error of thinking that 15 years wasn't enough time to prepare for this exact scenario. The hologram shifted, showing real-time data streams. Brentok stood abruptly. What is this? These are live feeds from various locations throughout Council space, Taeyang explained. Allow me to show you what you missed. The display changed, revealing a massive warship emerging from a dark nebula near the Morthian home system. Then another feed showed a fleet formation holding position near an Arkenthi colony. More images appeared, dozens of them, hundreds, showing human military vessels in positions throughout Council territory. This is fabricated, Brentok roared. Propaganda and lies. Director Suman, Taeyang said calmly. Please confirm authentication codes. From Earth, light years away, the signal arrived. Each displayed ship transmitted its identification code simultaneously. The Council's own sensor networks, accessed by the human intelligence operatives embedded in their systems, confirmed the readings. The ships were real. Veltharis's expression finally changed, showing something that might have been concern. How many vessels? More than 3,000, Taeyang replied. Built in secret over 15 years, positioned while you were busy counting the 50 ships we let you see. Lysara's crystalline features seemed to pale. This is impossible. Our intelligence would have detected construction on such a scale. Your intelligence saw what we wanted you to see, Mireille interjected. We learned from our own history. During Earth's World War II, nations hid entire armies and fleets from enemy surveillance. We simply applied those lessons to a larger stage. The chamber descended into chaos again. Council members were frantically communicating with their home governments. Security advisors appeared via emergency holographic links. The careful order of the Council was unraveling before Taeyang's eyes. You've just admitted to infiltrating Council space, Treth observed. This is an act of war. No, Taeyang corrected. This is an act of survival. You demanded we surrender our sovereignty or face military action. We're simply showing you why that action would be unwise. Admiral Cho Minho's face appeared in the holographic display, transmitted from the flagship of the hidden human fleet. Council members, this is Rear Admiral Cho of the Earth Defense Force. Our vessels are currently holding position around 17 Council core worlds. We have targeting solutions locked on critical infrastructure. This is not a threat. This is a statement of capability. Brentok's voice shook with rage. You position weapons around our homes and claim it's not a threat? You positioned weapons around our homes first, Taeyang replied coldly. The difference is we're telling you about ours. We're giving you the chance to reconsider your demands. Veltharis finally spoke, his voice quieter than before. What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador? I'm about to deliver Earth's answer to your ultimatum, Taeyang said. But first I need you to understand something about humanity. We are a species that evolved from hunters. We are persistence predators. When we set a goal, we pursue it until we succeed or die trying. For 15 years, our goal has been to ensure that no power in the galaxy could force us into submission. He paused, letting his words sink in. We didn't build this fleet because we wanted war. We built it because we refused to be slaves. Every human ship, every weapon, every soldier has been trained with one purpose: to make the cost of conquering Earth so high that no rational power would attempt it. Ambassador Park's hologram spoke from Mars Colony. All human colonies are unified in this position. We've prepared for blockades, invasions, and siege warfare. We've stockpiled resources for years of conflict. We've rehearsed every scenario. This is madness, Lysara said softly. You would risk total war rather than accept peace? That depends on your definition of peace, Taeyang replied. If peace means freedom, dignity, and the right to determine our own future, then we want peace desperately. But if peace means submission, control, and the slow death of everything that makes us human, then we'll choose war. He took a breath, preparing to deliver the words that would change everything. The Council has given us 72 hours to decide. We've decided. Earth and all human colonies formally refuse your offer of protection. We refuse client species status. We refuse to surrender our sovereignty. We will maintain our territorial claims, our military forces, and our independence. The chamber was absolutely silent now. Every council member stared at Taeyang. That is Earth's answer. Now the council must make a choice. You can withdraw your demands and recognize humanity as an equal sovereign power, or you can attack us and trigger the war we've spent 15 years preparing for. The silence in the council chamber stretched until it felt like a physical thing. Taeyang could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Every eye in the chamber was fixed on him, waiting for what would come next. He had delivered Earth's refusal. Now came the moment of truth. Veltheris was the first to speak. Ambassador Taeyang, do you understand the gravity of what you've just said? You're refusing the most powerful alliance in the known galaxy. I understand perfectly, Taeyang replied. I'm refusing to let my species become puppets. There's nothing more serious than that. Brentok's forearms slammed down on his seat's armrests. This is insanity. You speak of 3,000 ships as if that makes you our equal. The Council commands hundreds of thousands of vessels. Your hidden fleet is impressive, yes, but it's a fraction of our combined military power. Numbers aren't everything, Mireille interjected. The Council has spent 1,000 years fighting minor conflicts against species who surrendered quickly. Your military is designed for peacekeeping and quick suppressions. It's not designed for total war. And yours is? Lysara asked, her melodic voice carrying genuine curiosity rather than mockery. Taeyang activated another display. Let me tell you about humanity's history. For thousands of years before we reached space, we fought each other. We fought over land, resources, ideas, and sometimes, for reasons we can barely remember, we developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We created strategies to break enemies who refused to surrender. We learned how to fight wars that lasted years, decades, generations. The display showed historical images from Earth, ancient battles, medieval sieges, modern warfare, nuclear explosions. The council members watched in what appeared to be horrified fascination. We are a species that understands violence in ways you've forgotten, Taeyang continued. The weapons you've seen in our fleet aren't designed for clean, minimal casualty conflicts. They're designed to destroy completely. Relativistic kinetic weapons that can shatter continents, nuclear devices that poison worlds, AI swarms that overwhelm defensive systems through sheer numbers. You're describing weapons of mass destruction, Tereth said quietly. Technologies most species abandon once they achieve interstellar travel. We didn't abandon them. We perfected them, Taeyang stated. Not because we're cruel, but because we needed deterrence that you would believe. The Council needed to understand that attacking humanity would cost more than any victory could justify. Admiral Cho's image reappeared in the holographic display. Our military doctrine is simple. If the Council attacks any human target, we interpret it as total war. No limited engagement. No rules beyond basic laws of warfare. Every Council military installation becomes a target. Every strategic resource. Every advantage you currently possess. You would attack civilian targets? Veltheris asked, his voice sharp. No, Taeyang said firmly. We follow the basic laws of war. Civilians are not targets, but everything else is on the table. Your shipyards, your supply lines, your communication networks, Your economic infrastructure. We will not strike at your people, but we will break your ability to wage war. Brentok laughed, but it sounded forced. And you think you can sustain such a campaign? The Council's resources dwarf yours. We can replace losses faster than you can inflict them. Perhaps, Mirai acknowledged, but consider the cost. We've run the projections. A war with humanity would require the Council to mobilize fully for the first time in centuries. Your economies would shift to wartime production. Trade routes would be disrupted. The client species might see your vulnerability and question their submission. Even if you ultimately won, the victory would leave the Council weakened for decades. And in the meantime, Admiral Cho added, you would face an enemy that doesn't stop. We are persistence hunters, remember? We don't need to win quickly. We just need to make you bleed until you decide the cost is too high. The holographic display changed again, showing strategic analysis, human ships positioned near critical jump points, projected casualty rates for various conflict scenarios, economic impact assessments for prolonged warfare. The numbers were brutal for both sides. Counselor Tereth studied the data carefully. You've thought this through extensively. These aren't empty threats. You're genuinely prepared to sacrifice millions of your people rather than accept Council protection. Billions, if necessary, Taeyang confirmed. Freedom isn't free, Counselor. That's a lesson humanity learned many times throughout our history. We know the price and we're willing to pay it. Lysara stood, her crystalline form catching the chamber's light. Ambassador, please help me understand. Why are you so opposed to working with the Council? We offer technology, security, access to a vast interstellar civilization. Why choose isolation and potential destruction? Taeyang met her gaze. Because we've seen what happens to your client species. You say they're protected, but they're really controlled. Their cultures are monitored and modified. Their resources are extracted for Council benefit. Their futures are decided by others. That's not protection, Counselor. That's domination dressed in kind words. We maintain order, Veltharis stated coldly. Without Council oversight, young species make dangerous mistakes. They develop weapons they can't control. They expand aggressively. They threaten stability. Mistakes are how we learn, Taeyang replied. And apparently we learned enough to build a fleet that has the entire Council worried. That should tell you something. We're not children who need supervision. We're a sovereign species that demands respect. Brentok stood abruptly. Enough of this. The Council does not negotiate with those who make threats. If humanity wants war, then we should give it to them. Let them learn what happens when they defy the established order. Is that the Council's official position? Taeyang asked calmly. Because if it is, I need to know right now. Admiral Cho and his fleet are waiting for my signal. If the Council chooses war, it begins immediately. The chamber erupted in argument. Council members shouted at each other in various languages. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for restraint and further negotiation. The careful unity of the Council was fracturing before Taeyang's eyes. Veltharis raised his hand, calling for order. The gesture took several moments to have effect. Finally, the chamber quieted enough for him to speak. Ambassador Taeyang, you have placed the Council in an impossible position. If we accept your refusal, we appear weak. Other species might follow your example. But if we attack, we face a war that could destabilize the entire region. Then perhaps, Taeyang suggested carefully, there's a third option, one where humanity maintains its sovereignty but the Council doesn't lose face. What option? Lysara asked. Recognize us as equals. Not clients, not subjects, but partners. Give Earth a seat on the Council. Establish genuine diplomatic relations based on mutual respect rather than hierarchy. We're not asking to dominate anyone. We're asking to be left free. Brentok scoffed. Impossible. A species that's been in space for 15 years, sitting on the Council alongside civilizations that have existed for millennia. Absurd. Why? Mirai challenged. Because we're young? Age doesn't equal wisdom. The Council has ruled unopposed for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to face genuine opposition. Maybe that's exactly why you need us. To remind you that power isn't permanent and that even ancient empires can fall. Tereth spoke thoughtfully. There is precedent, though distant. The Council was formed by 5 species who came together as equals. That principle has been lost over time, replaced by the hierarchy we have now. Perhaps the humans' challenge is an opportunity to remember our original purpose. Or it's an opportunity to remind young species what happens when they overreach. Brentok countered. Veltharis looked directly at Taeyang. If we were to attack, if we called your bluff, what would happen next? Taeyang felt the weight of the moment. Every word mattered now. It's not a bluff, Counselor. If one of your ships fires on any human target, if one Council soldier steps foot on Earth against our will, Admiral Cho will give the order. 3,000 human warships will begin attacking Council positions simultaneously. We will fight with everything we have. We will accept no surrender terms except full recognition of our independence. And we will continue fighting until either we're extinct or you withdraw. He paused, then delivered the line that would echo through history. You wanted an answer to your ultimatum. Here it is, we refuse. Now you have a choice. Accept our refusal and we can discuss how to coexist peacefully. Or attack us and then the war begins now. The chamber fell silent once more. Taeyang stood straight, showing no fear, no hesitation. Beside him, Mirai maintained the same confident posture. Behind them, transmitted across light years, the entire human species waited to see if their gambit would work, or if they had just triggered their own extinction. The council chamber descended into chaos. Veltheris tried to maintain order, but council members were shouting over each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for emergency sessions with their home governments. The carefully maintained facade of unity crumbled as different factions emerged. Taeyang stood motionless in the center of it all, watching as the implications of his words spread through the chamber like ripples in water. Mirai monitored her tablet, tracking the responses coming from across council space. The broadcast of this session was reaching billions of beings on hundreds of worlds. The secret was out. Everyone now knew that humanity had built a hidden fleet and positioned it throughout council territory. This session is temporarily suspended, Veltheris finally declared, his voice cutting through the noise. The council will reconvene in 6 hours. Ambassador Taeyang, you and your delegation will remain on Axis Prime. It wasn't a request. Taeyang nodded his acceptance. As the council members began filing out, many cast glances in his direction. Some looked angry. Others seemed thoughtful. A few appeared almost impressed. Lysara approached as the chamber emptied. Ambassador, may I speak with you privately? Taeyang glanced at Mirai, who gave a small nod. Of course, Counselor. They moved to a small anteroom off the main chamber. Lysara's crystalline features caught the light and patterns that Taeyang had learned indicated deep thought. That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I've witnessed in 300 years, she said quietly. Perhaps both. Sometimes there's no difference, Taeyang replied. You've put the council in an impossible position, but you've also forced us to confront truths we've been avoiding. The client species system has become corrupt. What began as genuine protection has turned into control. I've argued this in private sessions for decades. But voices like mine are always silenced by those like Brentok. Then maybe this crisis will give your voice more weight, Mirai suggested. Lysara nodded slowly. There are others who feel as I do. Counselor Zenpath of the Durrani Union. Tereth, despite his careful words. Several others who have grown uncomfortable with how the council operates. Your revelation has shattered the consensus. The Hawks want war, but they're no longer the only voices that matter. Over the next 6 hours, Taeyang received constant updates from Earth. Prime Minister Kwon Ji-young had addressed the planet, explaining the situation to humanity. The response was overwhelmingly supportive. People understood what was at stake. They understood that their leaders had been preparing for this moment since first contact with alien civilizations. General Nam Seojun, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces, reported that all military assets were at maximum readiness. The hidden fleets remained in position. Every human soldier, every ship captain, every station commander was ready to fight if necessary. Director Suman sent encrypted updates about reactions across council space. The Morthian Collective was mobilizing its fleets, preparing for conflict. The Arkanthi were divided, with some factions urging caution. Smaller council members were frantically calculating which side would win and how to position themselves advantageously. But the most interesting development came from an unexpected source. Several client species had begun quiet communications with Earth. They wanted to know if humanity's resistance was real, if it was possible to stand against the Council. The implications were staggering. If humanity's example inspired rebellion among subjugated species, the Council's entire structure could collapse. When the chamber reconvened, Taeyang noticed immediate changes. More council members were present, including faces he'd never seen before. These must be the representatives that Lysara had mentioned, the faction that questioned the council's current path. Veltheris called the session to order. The council has deliberated extensively. We have consulted with military advisors, strategic analysts, and diplomatic experts. The situation is complex and unprecedented. Brentok stood, his forearms crossed. I move for immediate military action against human positions. This threat cannot stand. If we allow one species to defy us, others will follow. The council's authority must be maintained. I oppose this motion, a new voice rang out. Councillor Zenpath, a tall being with features that reminded Taiyang of Earth's insects, stepped forward. Military action would be catastrophic. Our intelligence confirms that human capabilities have been severely underestimated. A war would cost millions of lives on both sides and destabilize the entire region. Then what do you propose? Brentok demanded. That we simply accept this humiliation? I propose, Zenpath continued, that we acknowledge reality. Humanity has demonstrated both capability and resolve. They are not the weak species we assumed. Perhaps it's time to treat them as what they've proven to be, equals. The chamber erupted again. The Hawk faction shouted their opposition. But the moderate voices, emboldened by Zenpath's leadership, shouted back. For the first time in living memory, the council was genuinely divided. Dreth raised his hand for attention. I have studied human history extensively over the past 6 hours. They have a saying, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Perhaps we should remember our own past. The council was founded by 5 species who came together as partners, not as masters and subjects. We have strayed from that founding principle. Lysera stood beside Zenpath. The Quentari Commonwealth supports a diplomatic resolution. We propose that humanity be offered full council membership, not client status. Let them prove themselves through participation rather than conquest. This is madness, Brentok roared. A species barely out of their home system, given equal standing with civilizations that have existed for millennia? Why not? Taiyang spoke up. You judge us by age, but we've proven our capability. We built a fleet you didn't detect. We positioned forces throughout your territory, without your knowledge. We forced the entire council to reconsider assumptions you've held for centuries. If that doesn't demonstrate capability, what does? Veltheris studied Taiyang for a long moment. The Supreme Arbiter's expression was unreadable. Finally he spoke. The council will vote. The motion is this. Earth and its colonies will be offered full membership in the Galactic Council with complete sovereignty. They will maintain their military forces and territorial claims. In exchange, they will participate in mutual defense agreements and open trade relations. All in favor? The vote took less than a minute, but those seconds felt like hours to Taiyang. Council members activated their voting systems. The display showed the results in real time. It was close, painfully close. But when the final count appeared, the motion had passed by a margin of just 12 votes. Humanity had won. Brentok stood abruptly and left the chamber without a word. Several other council members followed him. The Hawk faction had lost, and they knew it. Veltheris looked at Taiyang. Ambassador, the council accepts Earth's sovereignty and offers full membership. You have achieved what you sought. I hope you understand the responsibility that comes with this victory. We do, Taiyang replied, and we take that responsibility seriously. Over the following weeks, the details were worked out. Earth would gain a voting seat on the council. Human forces would withdraw from their positions around council worlds, but the council would acknowledge humanity's right to maintain its military. Trade agreements were established. Cultural exchanges were planned. The galaxy's power structure had shifted fundamentally, but not everyone was happy. Brentok and his faction remained hostile. Several council species made it clear they saw this as a temporary setback, not a permanent change. The client species who had reached out to Earth became bolder in their demands for greater autonomy, causing tension throughout council space. Taiyang returned to Earth to a hero's welcome. But as he stood before Prime Minister Quan and the assembled leaders, his expression was grave. We won this round, he told them, but the fight isn't over. We've made powerful enemies. The Council's hawks will be looking for any excuse to prove we're not worthy of the position we've claimed. And the client species see us as a symbol of resistance. Their demands for freedom could destabilize the entire galactic order. Are you saying we made a mistake? General Nam asked. No, Taiyang replied. We did what we had to do. But we need to understand that this is just the beginning. We've earned respect through strength, But maintaining that respect will require constant vigilance. Prime Minister Kwan nodded. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. That's not just an old saying. It's truth. We'll remain ready. Admiral Cho appeared via hologram. The fleet is standing down to normal readiness, but we're not dismantling anything. The ships that kept us free will continue to protect that freedom. Mirai approached Taeyang as the meeting concluded. Do you think the Council will honor the agreement? Taeyang looked out the window at Earth's blue sky. Some will. Others won't. But that's the nature of politics, whether on Earth or across the galaxy. We've proven we can't be conquered easily. Now we have to prove we can be good partners. That might actually be harder. At least we'll face it as free people, Mirai said. Yes, Taeyang agreed. That's what matters most. In the weeks and months that followed, humanity settled into its new role. The hidden fleets were no longer hidden, but they remained ready. Human diplomats worked alongside council members, learning the complex politics of a galactic civilization. Trade brought new technologies and ideas to Earth while human innovation began influencing council species. But tension remained. The Morthian collective refused to recognize human authority. The client species movement grew stronger, inspired by Earth's example. The council found itself facing challenges it hadn't confronted in centuries. Director Suman sent a final report to Taeyang as he prepared for another council session. Our agents report that several species are developing their own hidden capabilities, copying our strategy. The galaxy is becoming more dangerous and less predictable. Taeyang read the report and smiled slightly. Good. Complacency is what made the council vulnerable to begin with. Competition will keep everyone sharp. As he boarded the shuttle for Axis Prime, Mirai asked him one more question. Do you think they'll ever truly accept us? Taeyang considered this carefully. Some already have. Others never will. But acceptance isn't what we fought for. We fought for the right to stand on our own, to make our own choices, to succeed or fail by our own efforts. That right is worth more than acceptance. They'll never underestimate us again, Mirai observed. No, Taeyang agreed. But the question is whether they'll forgive us for making them look weak. That's the real challenge ahead. The shuttle lifted off, carrying them back to the council chamber where humanity would continue the work of proving they deserved their place among the stars. The war had been avoided, but the struggle for freedom would never truly end. That was the lesson humanity had learned from their own history. Liberty required constant defense, constant vigilance, and constant willingness to pay its price. Earth had survived its first great test. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity would never stop being ready for whatever came next.